Luno, the fastest, easiest way to buy Bitcoin. If you're just getting into crypto, it's the perfect place to start. Hey guys, and welcome back to my show. Today is going to be really interesting. We're talking Bitfinex, we're talking Tether, and I have a really exciting guest. But as always, this is powered by Heilpern Plus. I'm going to give you a really quick news announcement. So this one's really interesting. Paycoin is the very first company to commercialize Bitcoin payments in South Korea, and will also actually integrate ICX and ETH into its global payment app. So that's really interesting. This is sponsored by BlockFi. You can actually earn up to 8.6% interest on your USDC. So I will leave a link for you somewhere, and you can get $250 when you sign up. And it is powered and sponsored by CoinFlip as well. So a quick shout out to them. So before I bring on my guest and before we jump into this, if you are watching on YouTube, then please don't forget to hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss one of these fantastic guests. Joining me today, we have Hailey Lennon, partner at Anderson Kill Law and contributor for Forbes Crypto. Hailey, great to have you. How are you doing?
Hi, great. Thanks for having me. It's very exciting to come on your show.
It's good to have you. I feel like we've been chatting for ages and we've been trying to schedule something in, but it's been madness. How are you over in California?
Good. I thought things might calm down with COVID, and it's been quite the opposite. I was based in San Francisco the last 4 years and just relocated outside of San Francisco. So that's been a nice sort of change of pace. And like you said, I joined Anderson Kill. It's been about 4 months. Those 4 months have flown by, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm helping to grow out the regulatory practice there. We have 4 or 5 partners, including Preston Byrne and Stephen Pally, which are both also active on Twitter as other partners at the firm. And so we're just growing out our practice there for crypto and fintech companies. It's been really fun.
Yeah, and I think people like yourself who are in the regulatory side of things, I think are so interesting and brilliant to chat to, because on Twitter, it's kind of just like this hub where we're all sort of just crowding and shouting things and ideas. But realistically, we need to know how this is all going to play out in the grand scheme of things, what's mass adoption going to look like. So I'm excited to jump in. But before we do, how did you get into crypto? Because I don't know a lot about you personally. So tell me your journey.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So I graduated law school in 2012, and I thought I wanted to just go like big law, commercial litigation, be in a courtroom. And after about a year at a law firm, I was like, this is just not for me. I really decided that I wanted to be either in-house or just working in a specific field that I was really passionate about. So I started doing in-house counsel work for traditional finance companies. And then I was recruited by Silvergate Bank in 2014 because they wanted to help bank the crypto space. At that time, even the large reputable exchanges couldn't get a bank account because there was this impression that there was more money laundering going on, it was used for criminal activity, all these sort of like narratives. And so I joined Silvergate, and I had known about Bitcoin, and my boyfriend at the time and I had started buying a little, but it was still just, I was getting my head wrapped around it. And then when I joined Silvergate, it was like, my job was reviewing every major exchange and every major crypto company to see if they had a compliance program, a information security program, cybersecurity, all the things that would be needed to make a company safe and bankable. And so by the time I left Silvergate after like 2.5 years, I had reviewed like 200, 300 crypto companies. And I had this like amazing bird's eye view of the industry and like where everyone sat, the results of certain exchanges, regulatory exams, just like the whole world of what was going on at that time. And then I moved up to San Francisco and started to focus more on in-house counsel for specific companies. So I was at Bitflyer, which is the largest Bitcoin exchange in Japan. And at the time they wanted to expand into the US. So I helped them get the New York Bit license and all the requirements to expand here into the United States, which is no small task. And then most recently was at Coinbase as regulatory counsel. So it's been a really exciting journey. And like with every year I spend in the industry, I fall more in love with it and just like the people in it and what we're all doing. And even as nerdy as it sounds, like the legal implications and what we're having to deal with. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine, because like I was saying, there's just so much going on and we just don't know what we can and can't do, whether it be major institutions getting in, whether it be, taxes, whether it be which countries are doing what. There's just so much going on. And I think people like yourself are just so important, just to be like, wait, hold up. Like, we need some information as to what is happening.
Yeah.
So did you know anything then about crypto before you delved into it? Or did you sort of just learn on the job?
Well, what's funny is so before Silvergate, I was at a traditional currency exchange company. So I was in San Diego. That's where I went to law school. And in San Diego, there are small exchange centers along the Mexico border where workers, either on the Mexico side or the United States side, need to be exchanging their pesos for dollars. They're, depositing their paychecks, that sort of thing. That also has money laundering concerns. It can have money transmitter licensing implications. So that's part of the reason Silvergate recruited me, is they were saying, well, what you're doing at this traditional wholesale currency exchange company is actually very much in line with crypto. I mean, crypto's sexier. It has more tech behind it. It's more revolutionary. But when you get down to the basics, people can use it for money laundering. So you need to have an anti-money laundering program. It can be considered money transmission. So you need licenses in every state. And so there's actually there was a lot of similarities where there was definitely learning on the job. I mean, when I started looking at, when I started learning about Chainalysis and Elliptic, and when I was at Silvergate, Bitcoin was the only coin that existed. There was that was in the early days where what is a security and what is not didn't exist. But yeah, so there was a lot of learning on the job. But the Silvergate bank team is still around. That bank is thriving with their crypto practice, and so there was a really great team to learn with, and expand our knowledge on the space.
So outside of crypto, what else do you do in your spare time other than stay locked home because of COVID? Outside of crypto, what else are you up to?
Yeah, hobbies seem funny now. Well, so even before COVID, but now I've definitely been focusing more on cooking. When I was in law school and waiting for my law bar results, I started a very amateur cooking blog. But
What'd you cook?
I mean, I love pastas. I don't do baking. I just do the savory. I've been playing around more with the grill lately and marinades and that sort of thing. So just anything. I really like, I go through a lot of cooking books and cooking magazines and just sort of use recipes and tweak them a little. But also in Southern California right now, the beach. I mean, I love just going to the beach, walking around with my dog. Yeah, it is 74 where I am right now. And I'm originally from Dallas. So all my friends last week were dealing with the power outages, snow. I feel very fortunate for the weather we're experiencing here. And so, yeah, just hiking. But COVID's changed things. I mean, before COVID, I loved yoga classes, going dancing, concerts, sporting events. I mean, so the world's just changed right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. But yeah, it's a shame. Oh gosh, me. And no one ever asks me. What do I like?
Oh, really?
No, totally put me on the spot. I like the sun. I like outdoors. I like nature. I'm hoping should be leaving the UK permanently really soon. So I'm hoping just to get in the sun, beach. I like dancing as well. I'm not amazing at cooking, which is annoying, but other than that,
Cool. Well, I won't put you on the spot and ask where you're going, but I hope it's somewhere fun. And
I will.
Sure you'll let me know.
I'll announce it soon. Yeah, I'll announce it soon. So I promised everybody that we would talk about Tether, because Tether's been crazy. We've had this Tether filed that it's, not backed one-to-one with the dollar, that it's, pumping up the price of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So obviously, yesterday we heard the news that Tether and Bitfinex obviously agreed to settle with the New York State Attorney for $18.5 million. So can you take us through and understand what exactly is happening here?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because there is a lot of sort of like what New York is saying versus what Bitfinex is saying and what they're claiming. So the situation with any sort of stable coin like this, and I'll use quote marks stable coin, is that the coin is pegged to something. It can be the dollar, it can be a basket of assets, it can really be anything, but it needs to be pegged to that to help ensure that there's less volatility and that there is consumer protection efforts involved. And so, I definitely do think that a lot of the news, not even just about Tether, but just in general, is FUD. People like to have clickbait titles, make it seem like this whole thing is this like scary industry, wild, wild west. I mean, we've been dealing with that for like 10 years, just that general narrative. And that's something I really try to avoid writing for Forbes. Like, I would get paid per click, but I'd rather the title be and the article be just
Wait,
like,
you get paid per click? I didn't know that.
So contributors do. I mean, there's certain I think certain news places do per click. Some do. So at least for contributors, and and not just Forbes, like journalism in general. Sometimes you are incentivized to make sure that it's something that is going to cause, a stir or get attention. So anyways, my point is just that, like, I think that there is FUD out there about this and about everything. But I think the settlement shows, the companies and the project was very careful not to like admit guilt really in that settlement. But it also shows that they weren't wanting to continue sort of fighting and proving it wrong, I would say, or they didn't want to continue using their resources and money to keep fighting it. So it's hard to say really, but I do think that there seems to be something going on where it's not 100% true that it's pegged one for one to the dollar, or wasn't at a certain point in time. And I think that sort of that dishonesty that is leading to New York pursuing this so aggressively, because if you have consumers that are relying on things that a project is claiming, and then those things end up not being true, consumer protection has always been, I think, something that people actually don't focus a ton on in the industry. They're busy with the SEC and FinCEN and OFAC, but we don't want a bunch of consumers being hurt by misinformation. So, but it's interesting, and I don't personally have a lot of opinion on whether Tether was doing things to manipulate or change the price of Bitcoin. I don't think that's not what would concern me about the situation. But it didn't help. The news didn't help Bitcoin's price yesterday, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, it didn't. But see, where I get really stumbled across these when it comes to these things is the fact that they had to settle for 18.5 million, despite the fact that they still denied any wrongdoing. So I'm just so uncomfortable with that, because I do understand the point in settling. I get it. Like you said, here, just take the money and we'll call it a day. I get that. But if there was no wrongdoing, surely, you can tell me if I'm wrong, anyone in the comments can tell me if I'm wrong, but if there was no wrongdoing, 18.5 million, it's not like a couple thousand. And I know it's obviously not that much for them, but it's a hefty amount for not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're getting at the argument, though, that probably that amount of money isn't that much in compared to what they've been able to make. So it's more based probably on percentage, but I would agree. I mean, I think that companies get put in this hard position where they need to choose if they're going to continue fighting and, like you said, paying and spending the time and money to try to prove their innocence, or if they're just going to say, you know what, let's just call it a day. And I think likely that's part of what's happened here. But there's also a situation you could argue where if all the facts were really in your favor, you would keep going. You know, you would continue to fight the good fight. So it's hard to say. Yeah, and I don't know if anyone in the comments does have an opinion about that. But in general, I would just say that the amounts that we're seeing in these settlements and even like enforcement actions, like they do seem very high. I mean, there was an article I read a few weeks or months ago where BitGo settled with OFAC for I think it was $9,000 of transactions that went to prohibited jurisdictions. So it's not like they went to someone on the OFAC SDN terrorist list. They went to jurisdictions that of themselves are considered on the blocked list. And so for $9,000 of transactions, they settled for almost $100,000, you know? And so you start to like, I feel the same way sometimes where I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like, you know, it's getting it out of the way. And, but sometimes it does seem a little like unbalanced.
Do you have an opinion on it? So do you think that there was any wrongdoing on Tether's part? Or are you not allowed to sort of give your opinion?
I don't think they're completely innocent. I think there must be, regulators, some regulators may have a problem with this space, but regulators don't just like go after a company for no reason. And so for New York to be kind of pretty transparent and saying there was misrepresentation about the backing, I think it's fair to say that that's partially true. I don't know how true, and I don't know the gravity of it, but that's what I'll say.
So I think that leads me on to the next thing that I want to talk about, because the Ripple, I think it's called SEC versus Howie. I think that's the name of the official court case. So that obviously there was an amendment that happened this week. So I wanted to get your opinion on it, and I kind of want to go through it chronologically. So I'm thinking I want to first understand, and I know I've been through this, but I still think there's some confusion around it. I do want to understand what a security is, why they're being accused of being a security, the amendment, and then we'll go on. So let's do this chronologically, because I think it's quite a hefty subject. So go for it.
Yeah. So so sort of the background is that there was the case, the SEC versus Howie. It was from 1946, and I don't want to like sort of repeat what everyone knows, but for anyone who doesn't, it was actually about an orange grove. And what the case was trying to litigate and determine is, when is something an investment contract? When is someone relying on efforts by someone in hopes of making money? It's just kind of as simple as that. So, that was 1946. The Securities Act is from 1933. So we're dealing with like case law and regulation, very old. And so now you fast forward to present day, and there's been a lot of confusion around this, because pretty early on, the SEC sort of said how the Howie test that comes from that court case is the same test that you need to apply to cryptos. So that's sort of the basic. We can talk about like what those there's four prongs.
Yeah, go for it. Essentially, I think the confusion is like, because ETH was kind of ruled out as not being a security. So why is that different to XRP?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So at the very basic, the Howie test determines if something is an investment contract. And so there's four prongs. It's if there was a common enterprise, an investment of money in that common enterprise with the expectation of profits derived from the efforts of others. And I do. So for those four, to be an investment contract, you have to meet all four. And that might seem difficult, but actually I would argue that a lot of the projects in the space meet those four.
I'd argue the same. That's where my confusion comes in.
Yeah. And it's not a very popular opinion. And I actually have a lot of potential clients that come to me and say, you know, we want to do this. This is what we want to do. And they lay out the things they're wanting to do with their project and their token. And I say, what you just described is an investment contract. Like, so we can either figure out ways to get rid of one of those prongs, and, you know, not to get around the law, but like to frame your project in a different way, or let's go talk to the SEC.
So let me just ask you this then. Yeah. So with that in mind, then, if you sort of feel like, you know, this is a common denominator within the space, do you feel that the SEC are going after Ripple XRP specifically because they believe that they've done something wrong? Or do you think this is a general sort of attack on the space? Because I guess, you know, they were doing things in some ways, they were looking to, replace the banks in terms of those international payments. So,
So I don't interpret it as like an attack on the industry or like trying to promote the bank. I mean, there are definitely regulators in the US, and there's definitely reasons why some people want banks to succeed and crypto to fail. Like I agree with that. But when it comes to Ripple, like the first thing I'll say is I don't think Ripple's the only project that's going to see this issue. Like behind the scenes, I think it takes the SEC a while to sort of accumulate all the evidence and things they want to include in a case against a company. So I don't think Ripple's the last of its kind. I think we're going to see it more, and I don't love that. I really wish that we could, as an industry, like have the clarity we've all been asking for, rather than these lawsuits or enforcement actions. So that's sort of one thing. I don't think that this is the last we'll see of this. And so I don't think it's specific to Ripple. But part of what I think the issue with Ripple is that there are a lot of exhibits within the allegations that Ripple really sort of marketed XRP and promoted it and even promised profits. So if you go and like look back at the 4 prongs, an investment of money, people did that. In a common enterprise, Ripple is that, with the expectation of profits. So that's one prong where, it's maybe up for debate if people thought, no, this is actually like a new payment rail that we want to support, not this is a coin I want to buy for it to go up. That's one thing you can debate, and then derive solely from the efforts of others. I think people make the argument that Ripple feels fairly centralized. So I think that, plus the statements that they've included in the lawsuit about sort of promising the future and promising profits or promising success of the coin and increased value. I think that is a hard. Those are pretty easy facts for the SEC to point to. And so, it's unfortunate. Like I think some people who follow me on Twitter would think that I'm like anti XRP or anti Ripple. I'm not. Like I've never invested in it or purchased.
That means you're anti it. If you haven't invested, then you must be anti it.
So, and I don't even hope that this turns into some horrible thing for Ripple or XRP. I really don't. I have no ulterior motives like against the project, but I do think that for now, like, Crypto Mom has like suggested with the SEC that we have this, like she's proposed a 3-year safe harbor that would allow a project like Ripple and XRP to reach that level of decentralization, where it could arguably not be a security after those 3 years. And within those 3 years, the project would have to disclose a lot of things. But for the time being, the SEC hasn't, pushed that forward, hasn't agreed to that. And so we are where we are, and it's, and does it stifle innovation and projects? Yes, 100%. But it's still the framework we have to work in.
I mean, that's the kind of narrative that we saw with Ethereum. I mean, that's why a lot of people, that's why I compared it to ETH, because it's kind of what I keep hearing. People often like, that's what people did with Ethereum at first, and now it's decentralized and so on. But there was an amendment this week which changed it. So can you explain what this amendment was? I believe it's quite a good thing, essentially, for Ripple.
So I wasn't following it as closely this week as I normally would, but they did, there was an amendment where the SEC has amended some of its claims, and I believe removed the market manipulation claim. Yeah. So that isn't saying that the SEC, like the SEC is still moving forward with its claims that it was an unregistered security offering. But I think that is a positive if you're following, because it shows that some of the claims that the SEC initially included are being dropped. But I think it'll be interesting because we're not getting sort of any. There's a chance that the SEC made that amendment to help promote a settlement, but what I think more so is probably that they dropped that. That they made the amendment, but that this may actually go all the way to trial. And, I think that'll be really interesting. And again, I don't have any like specific hopes on the outcome of that, but I do, if it goes all the way to, litigation and it doesn't settle, well, we might start to get some clarity, or it may just be, it hit these 4 prongs and we're going to all be like, back to where we started, but time will tell.
The most interesting part of all of this for me is kind of just like trying to understand where this is going to look in the future. So do you think if, there's clarity is given and we understand whether it is or isn't a security, but number one, by the time that happens, would another project have come along and, done what XRP was going to do and, replace Swift and so on? Or do you think actually now that it has that clarity, even if it is, let's say 2-3 years down the line, it can actually go on to do what it's supposed to do and all those bag holders are going to be real happy?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I guess my hope really would be this safe harbor thing would move forward. Right. I'm a big fan of it. I wrote an article in Forbes about it. And, there's been a change within the SEC. Gary Gensler is now there. From the statements I've heard from him, though, I actually think that I don't think he's skeptical or dislikes the space, but I do think that he has been pretty clear that he thinks XRP, Ripple is a security, and that, that even other projects, I've seen statements by him about Facebook's Libra project and things like that. So, it's hard. It's really hard to tell. It's hard to see in the future. There's a statute of limitations within some of these claims. I think, don't quote me, but I think it's around 5 years for some of these securities claims. And so, we'll start to see. I mean, I think we'll start to see in the next, I don't know, I would say the next few months, there may be some more activity coming out of the SEC. And I don't know that because of any clients I have or anything like that, but just from conversations I'm having in the industry, maybe the next year will give us some guidance on where this is all heading.
You mentioned Facebook's Libra. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that. Like your opinion on it.
Yeah.
It's sort of not taken off. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they really kind of, so for one, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. I mean, to me, it's like if we could figure out a way to decentralize Facebook and people could be compensated for their own information rather than giving it to Mark Zuckerberg and making him money off advertising, that would be ideal. But that aside, like, I think what happened with that project is they launched and they didn't really think about how US regulators would react. So with Libra, different than like USDC or Tether, Libra was trying to say, okay, we're going to make a stable coin, but it's going to be backed by a basket of assets. It's going to have the euro, the yen, like all these different, and we as a association are going to determine what percentage of each. And the US government was like, you don't get to choose monetary policy like that, right? Like you don't get to make other countries' currencies more or less important than the US dollar in this like basket of assets. So I think it would have had a much different, I think it would have taken off if it had launched just pegged to the US dollar. I'm guessing they didn't because they were hoping it would be more of a global currency, I guess. But I think that's what like made all those letters come out and hearings and everything.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I mean, they've changed their name to Diem now. You know, so maybe they're looking to sort of like remarket themselves. You know, I was on a panel yesterday with their general counsel, Diems, and he's great. I mean, I was on a panel with him and Brian Brooks from the OCC. And you can just, he's really passionate about the idea of a stable coin and a digitized dollar. So, you know, I'm not against the project at all, but I do think they're going to need to pivot a little.
Yeah, 100%. They've already, I mean, Facebook, number one, has just terrible connotations to it at this point. I think even Mark Zuckerberg as an individual, people just don't like anymore. Libra, to me, I just remember when the whole thing started back in, was it 2018, 2019? It just never got any good reputation, any good kind of marketing or publicity. I think I remember the backers pulled out as well at one point.
There was like 20 people in the association. I mean, including Zappo, Coinbase. I mean, there were some exchange companies or crypto companies in there. And then, when all the, you know, letters from Congress and things started coming out, I mean, PayPal dropped, like there was just like this avalanche. I believe none of the cryptocurrency companies pulled out. So I believe that they're still members of the association. And so, you know, I think that shows that there is some support, or at least that these companies are seeing the potential of it, but it hasn't met that potential yet.
Yeah. I mean, a Facebook cryptocurrency digital asset is inevitable. Like Amazon are talking about one, it's so inevitable. But there's been some stuff going on in the US. So I want to get your thoughts because I'm British and I have no idea what's happening. So just break it down for me. So we were kind of talking earlier, and I was sort of really interested in regulation because it's a conversation we're always having in terms of whether it will stifle innovation in the space. I've been seeing what's been going on in Nigeria and how their central banks have basically stopped financial regulated financial institutions from trading cryptocurrency. So that's been damaging there. But obviously I want to kind of get the US perspective and whether you, number one, imagine anything happening quite like that. And number two, I know that, is it Janet Yellen? I know there's been a lot of hostility with her and Gensler. So who are these characters? Because I don't actually know. So take me through, I guess, how the US landscape looks.
Yeah. So I mean, your first question is, could I see a world in which there's some sort of that level of restriction on cryptocurrency in the US? I don't. I think that what we'll continue seeing is certain companies or certain projects struggling with regulatory, enforcement actions or settlements. But I don't think that there'll ever be a situation where, financial institutions are told they can't, they can't be part of the space in some way. And actually what we saw for the last 6 months or a year was Brian Brooks, who was formerly the chief legal officer of Coinbase. I worked closely with him, and he joined the OCC, which is the Office of Comptroller of Currency. So the OCC is within the Treasury Department of the federal government. And one of the things they do is handle, banking regulation and licensing. And so obviously Brian is a huge fan of cryptocurrency. He came from Coinbase, like there's no, that's no secret. But he was able to really go into the OCC and have conversations about like, this is where things are heading. This is what it means to be a bank. And nothing about that doesn't include the right to touch cryptocurrency in some way. So going back to like my Silvergate Bank days, there were these companies that couldn't get a bank account, and there's still people are still struggling with that, right? But like for one, if something is not illegal, like, so marijuana, for example, in the US is illegal on the federal level. It still is. I don't think it should be, but it is. And so that means a bank is going to have a really hard time explaining why to their federal regulator or their regulator in general, why they're providing a bank account to a marijuana company. Right, on the other hand, crypto is not illegal on any level. You need to be, you need to be registered as a broker. If you're going to list a security, you need to have an anti-money laundering program. There's a lot of rules around it, but it's not illegal at all. So even back to the Silvergate Bank days or today, it's like, why is it hard for a crypto company or a person buying crypto to have or maintain a bank account? That just seems crazy. And it's always seemed crazy to me. It's part of what I really loved about Silvergate. But so Brian, put out a lot of these letters and guidance over the last 6 months that said, hey, banks, you can and you should provide bank accounts to crypto companies, national banks, like the big name banks. You shouldn't be de-risking and not banking these companies. And then, a few weeks or a month later, he said, hey, banks, you can and should be, if you want, and in your business model, be custodying crypto assets. Like, it's no different than the fact that you've always offered safety security deposit boxes at your bank. Like, just the technology is different, but it's not changing or expanding on what a bank can do. It's just keeping up with the time. So anyways, Brian and the OCC made all these great, I would say, like, advances for the space. And we see Anchorage and some companies actually going for special purpose trust charters or full national bank charters now with the OCC. And that's something that never would have happened a year ago. But then, we have this transition of power. The Biden administration's coming in. Janet Yellen is interesting because she's taken over for the Treasury. I wrote a pretty strongly worded Forbes article about some of her initial statements, because she kind of came out, while she was being nominated and introduced, and said,
I remember,
just promoted these things that are just so 10 years ago, I should say. So she had said, I forget the phrasing, that crypto is mainly used for illicit activity. And I just lost my mind.
That. Yeah, I hate that.
I lost it. And my Forbes article was professional. I didn't actually lose my shit, but I was just I was close, because it was just how are we still talking about this? And
it's also just ignorant and just shows a lack of research and time. I think that's just intellectual laziness. And I think that's kind of shocking for someone in her position, personally.
I think it's that. And I think it's saying what she thinks her peers will relate to.
Yes.
And that's frustrating too, because, I think it's kind of based on her audience and who she's trying to speak to. And so, we're in an interesting position. Biden has said that he, when there were the whole hacks on Twitter, remember when people lost control of their Twitter accounts? Biden was one of them. And the hackers who took over the accounts on Twitter were making it a Bitcoin, fundraise or something, and at that time, Biden said that he confirmed he doesn't own any Bitcoin. But besides that, he's never said anything else. And Trump actually is the one who, during his administration, tweeted all that negative stuff about Bitcoin. So, we don't have any indication that the Biden administration is going to be harsher or worse for the industry in the US. But some of the statements by Janet Yellen, this week, she said that cryptocurrency is inefficient.
Yeah, I read that.
These little things that I don't even know really where they're I don't know where they're coming from, or even what the incentive is to say that. You know what I mean? She can have that opinion that it's, but I'm not sure where
I think the incentive, I mean, the incentive just comes from the same way we see banks behave hostile towards cryptocurrencies. I mean, in the UK, banks are absolutely a nightmare sometimes when it comes to cryptos. The FCA, who's our Financial Conduct Authority, it's just not so straightforward. And I think it's because they see it as a threat to the natural status quo, the natural kind of way and the system, basically, because I think it is, decentralization essentially means nobody has control. There's not one central authority, and that's obviously going to rub the establishment the wrong way. And I think that's kind of maybe what it comes down to.
On my panel yesterday, when we were talking about stable coins, the panel sort of was talking about it as like a baby step, because before you can expect these regulatory agencies, like you're saying, to be comfortable with this, like with having absolutely no control and no power and no sort of even like the volatility aspect. Like, to me, stable coins are like the baby step in between. It's sort of like you get the regulators comfortable with stable coins. They're not that volatile. Blah, blah, blah. They're tied to your dollar, and then they're starting to get comfortable with like centralized exchanges. Oh, it's, Coinbase, it does the same KYC as a bank does. Everything's okay. You can't just look, I've been in the space a long time. I'm like very into this idea of like a decentralized exchange where there's really not this need for like KYC and surveillance, but we're not, like, in my mind, we're not there yet.
But no KYC, can we get there from a regulatory standpoint? That's a big one. Yeah,
it is. And then that's why I'm kind of saying, like, so the reason I think we maybe can, or we can at least get closer, is like, I sometimes compare this to the internet days. And I've had discussions with Zuko, the founder of Zcash, about this. Like, when the internet first came about, like, the internet providers and even just the hosted websites really wanted the websites to be encrypted. And the government here in the US, at least, and this is sort of a rough analogy because I'm no internet expert, but the government agencies and the government in the US was sort of like, you can't encrypt it. Like, the law enforcement needs access to it. We need to, like, they wanted that control. And then as other countries started like hacking or stealing information or doing these things, all of a sudden the US government was like, oh, that sort of like privacy element of it, less control and more encryption is actually a good thing. And now that's how the internet is today. So like, I don't know if we could ever get to a place where there's absolutely zero KYC. But I do think that we're still like having these baby steps trying to get closer to this idea of like the libertarian ideals that started this industry, and saying, how do we find that happy medium? Because like right now, I would argue that most of the centralized exchanges are doing more transaction monitoring and KYC than banks. They're doing transaction monitoring on the fiat side, knowing where the dollars are coming from, knowing where the cryptocurrency is coming from and going to it. It's crazy. So I hope we can continue to make progress in like educating. I mean, education's a big part of this. Like, even my article about Janet Yellen's statements wasn't to just like try to make everyone in the industry feel better. It's sort of like, if people outside of the industry, or even Janet Yellen herself, would like read that, or read Chainalysis' like report that I referenced in my article that talks about, like, I have a little, it's like, what did I say? It was 2.1% of cryptocurrency transaction volume was used for illicit activity and money.
Okay.
And in 2020, that dropped to just 0.34% of transaction volumes. So that literally means less than 1% of cryptocurrency is used for these reasons. And then Janet Yellen's over here saying that that's what they're mainly used for. So it's just, that's
embarrassing.
There's a disconnect.
I mean, I think more than a disconnect, there's just like a lack of research there. Pretty insane. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. I'll just say quickly, because I spoke to Fluffy Pony about Monero, and he put it really, really nicely for me. He sort of said that, because we were talking about KYC and privacy, obviously, and he sort of said, look, you know, we have cash, right? Once you have your cash, nobody knows whether you're paying your taxes. People don't know how much you have stacked under your bed. People don't know whether you're doing something illegal with it, you know, buying drugs with it. Nobody really knows. And he sort of said that's those same AML procedures will be put into place for things like privacy coins, cryptocurrencies, and so on. I think it's just a matter of moving forward and innovating, because realistically, like if I receive payment in Bitcoin, right? So technically, if I wanted, I could just not pay tax on that because I just get this Bitcoin and there's no KYC and whatever. But then I can't do anything because when I start, you know, buying a house, buying a car, they're going to hang on, Layah, you've not had an income for, you know. So it's absolutely impossible.
Yeah, I think for some reason this new technology just scares people, and they make people describe it and make it seem so like it has so much more potential for bad than dollars, and it doesn't. Like you said, dollars literally are pieces of paper and you can go do whatever you want with them. So, you know, any like argument or statements I hear about Bitcoin like that, like you can just change the word Bitcoin to dollars, and and that sentence is probably more true. So I mean, I think that there's a lot of value in financial privacy. I think that, like, you know, at least in the US, like the events of September 11th and now even COVID in a way are being used to justify more control and more surveillance. And
don't get me started.
And being argued like we're protecting you, you know, we're protecting you. But I don't know.
As my favorite quote goes, when tyranny comes, it will come wrapped in the flag. That's my favorite quote.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'll just off the back of that, actually, I shouldn't get into this, but I'll just say it's the same thing in the UK. So we're not patriotic like you are. We don't care about the flag here. Actually, if you wave a flag, it's offensive. Especially an England flag, you mustn't wave an England flag because that means that you're a Nazi and a skinhead and so on. That's basically what that means. But the way that we show patriotism is through our public services, like our National Health Service, our NHS. So that's our patriotism. So this whole COVID thing for us is all about protect the NHS, save lives, protect the NHS, you know. So that's kind of the way. So that's our flag. Our NHS is our flag. So when tyranny comes, it comes wrapped in the NHS. So it's the same thing. Same but different. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I love hearing just like how different places view some of these topics, because and there are topics that I don't like. I think that a lot of people in the crypto space, like maybe these topics wouldn't be things that they think about so passionately if it weren't for cryptocurrency. You know what I mean? Like I've always been passionate about this idea of like liberties and freedom and not being surveilled. But if it weren't for cryptocurrency, I'm not sure I'd be questioning the financial system to the level I am. So that it's a pretty like powerful thing that we're all involved in.
That fascinates me because so a lot of people come to crypto through crypto first, but I find crypto through politics because I am a libertarian and I do believe in freedom. And so I come through the politics angle. So I'm so happy that I'm here. Because I'm like, people understand me. People get me.
These are your people for sure.
Literally.
Yeah, and it's neat that, like, I mean, the libertarian like aspect of this is obviously very strong. But what's also neat is like you meet and interact with so many different types of people that are coming to this space, and then all of a sudden there's this like exchange of ideas where we can start to like talk through this. I mean, I would say I'm libertarian too, but then I'm also coming from the legal side and the compliance side so but I can't ever, my stance isn't like fuck the government and it can't be, right? Because part of this is helping companies interact with these agencies to figure out a good compromise. And so there's a lot of compromising that has happened, needs to happen. will continue to happen, and we'll just, you know, keep having baby steps. But no, I mean, the activity we're seeing with the Bitcoin price, the companies we're seeing getting involved, like Tesla and things, like it's crazy.
This is what I wanted to ask you. I've just been sidetracked on some things, but I wanted to ask you actually about that, because MicroStrategy put another 1.02 billion in today. These people are mental. They're not mental, they're thought leaders, and they're great. But so they now own 95. So I think 95% of their balance sheet is now Bitcoin, which is amazing. But we're hearing a lot about ETFs. We're hearing about what Michael Saylor has done to actually allow other companies to invest through them. I don't know all the technical words for that, honestly. I don't, but I understand what's happened. But my question is essentially, why can't companies directly just buy Bitcoin like Tesla did, like Square, like MicroStrategy? Why is it so difficult? Why there's so many hurdles? I understand the price manipulation. Obviously, you don't want to move the market too much, but other than that, from a regulatory standpoint. Yeah,
it's a good question. I mean, honestly, I think part of what has made it so companies haven't done it isn't as much the regulatory hurdles, but more like getting the entire executive board or board of directors on board with exposing their balance sheet to this super volatile, you know, investment. In my mind, like the you know, Elon Musk, like they are these like thought leaders, and I think that it will pay off for them. And I think that that's part of it. I mean, you know, I keep kind of tying things back to Silvergate Bank, but like when the CEO Alan Lane went to like the board and said, hey, like, you know, I think this Bitcoin thing is going somewhere. Like, I think we should, you know, create a team of people that does business development and legal and regulatory reviews, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I can't like speak to the conversations, but my impression was that there was a little bit of hesitation, and it was sort of like, this seems like a gamble. In a lot of ways, like anything involving cryptocurrency right now is still a gamble. And I don't mean like gambling. I mean, it's there's a bit of like, trust in it that the future will, you know, that it's here to stay, and that it'll be around for a long time and benefit the people entering early. So I think that that's part of it. And so wait,
just so I can understand better, then, are you going through an ETF, or like going through what Michael Saylor has essentially created, is more protection for the company, and therefore everybody across the board is more likely to get on board and be more comfortable with this kind of investment?
I'm not saying that as much, and to be very candid, like I haven't worked with clients that are looking to do what these companies have done, so I don't feel like I can speak to it that much in terms of like what the process has been for them. But I guess I'm saying more that like the companies that we see who don't seem willing yet to make these big efforts to get into the crypto space, I think part of the apprehension is, you know, well, we even saw this week when Bitcoin's price went down, it hurt Tesla's stock, right?
Yeah, 20%. Peter Schiff, love that.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're like tying in. I mean, Bitcoin's obviously not a company, but you're tying in the reputational and success of a certain project or, you know, currency to your balance sheet. So that's more what I'm saying. And so, but I think that a company that takes the time to go through, you know, have ETFs and go through it that way, like, yeah, they've taken the time internally also to be having these discussions.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were saying about baby steps, essentially.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, maybe not right now with the price doing what it's, I mean, I don't really think the price drop is that dramatic or that big.
No,
it's still like hovering around like, what is it today? What is it? Let's see.
Right now it's at 49.
49,059. So I mean, it's dropped quite a bit, but it's nothing. I mean, I remember when I was at Bitflyer, Bitcoin was hovering around 10K, and the day we launched it is the day it went up to 20K. As like
really,
as legal and as in-house counsel and compliance, I was freaking out because I thought, oh my God, that mean day one we have an influx of potential customers because everyone's like excited about this 10 to 20K. but then it was down to 3K. I mean, so I don't think that the price drop is that dramatic, but I also think that other companies like, companies like Apple or Amazon come to mind. Like some of these are also forward-thinking companies, and Apple has Apple Pay. It seems like they are going to want to inch into this industry, but a lot of companies may be sitting back and watching what happens with Tesla and just how it works if they actually start accepting Bitcoin payments for Tesla, how it affects their balance sheet and their stocks. Yeah, so people might just be like sitting back and watching, learning from them.
So speaking of all this crazy price movement, then how's it been with like friends and family? Is everybody just knocking on your door like, Hailey, get us into Bitcoin? Yeah. Or are they already in?
Well, so a lot of my family and friends, I kind of like nudged in or sent a little bit of Bitcoin to them for their birthday or something. So I've tried to I'm excited about the space, and I even usually when my friends' children have birthdays, I'll give them like $20 of Bitcoin and like give the like.
Look at you. That's a good present.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's funny because I gave one of my friends, like 3-year-old, a little bit of Bitcoin. And I'm talking like $10, $20 of Bitcoin. But then it like just shot up, and he was like, I think it's worth like $200 now. And like it's so I just think it's neat to like, I always tell people about like Coinbase Earn or these ways to like get involved, or like Lolly that does the Bitcoin. I don't know. There's a lot of ways that I suggest people like get in without feeling like they need to throw a bunch of money into an exchange right away, because that can be kind of scary. But yeah, it was a funny story just came to mind. My grandmother passed away this week, and as I was sort of like talking to her, what she was unconscious, like sort of in her final days, I was like, Grandma, like Bitcoin's at 57,000. And my mom goes, Hailey, don't tell her that. Remember, she wanted you to buy her some Bitcoin. And it was just it was just a sweet moment, because my grandma was always really excited about the space, and actually like I helped her give a presentation at her old folks home about Bitcoin and stuff. Really? So yeah, it was she was really interested in it. But anyways, yeah, I think
That's nice.
Yeah, but I've had people like old friends and like people from my past texting me, oh, I wish I had bought like you told me to, or I did, thank you so much, or oh my God, what a crazy month for Bitcoin, so there's definitely a lot of like excitement, and the number of people impersonating me on Twitter has gone up, so that's always a sign. So annoying. So that's always a sign that the industry's doing well, but it's like it's never ending and really annoying. So, but yeah, I think people are getting more and more excited about it. And I think the Tesla news hit hard because people think of Elon Musk as a visionary. He's like building rockets to go into space. His car designs are amazing. He's I tweeted a while back, like he's kind of like the perfect person to be part of the crypto space, because he's a little crazy, a little unpredictable. He challenges the status quo. Like those are all things that I think of Bitcoin in itself, and like a lot of the people in the industry, they're just a little, they're challenging the status quo, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I think we were all really surprised that it took him that long. But I heard, maybe it was on Clubhouse, I don't know, I spend too much time there these days, but I heard somebody say that Elon Musk was playing poker with Bitcoin way back when. Yes, like I'm talking years ago, but I don't know if it's just a rumor or what, but there's
going to be like Bitcoin poker day, like we have Bitcoin pizza day. If anyone can find out how much he lost that day.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it'll be pretty insane.
Well, and it was kind of funny how he like was. He promotes Dogecoin, but like I'm like, well, add that to your balance sheet then.
See, I wasn't going to go into this, but like that's an issue. Like that's an issue. because you and I and the majority of people watching know that that's a joke.
Yeah.
But I'm not being funny. I had so many people, intelligent, smart people, approach me and ask me if Doge is a better investment than Bitcoin, because also they feel like they're priced out of the market with Bitcoin. The ship has sailed. So I had a friend who's like, Layah, Doge is really cheap. Elon Musk is promoting it. It's already up. Shall I buy it now? And I'm like, girl, shh, calm.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, and what is scary and interesting about it is I forgot. So I think it was like a year or two ago, I started opening accounts at every exchange just because I kind of wanted to see all the UIs, like see
That's
whatever,
cool.
like what Gemini looks like, what Robinhood looks like, what Coinbase looks like. And so as a result, like I would just like buy, like 99% of my portfolio is Bitcoin. But with that 1%, I was buying like, $10 of this, $10 of that. I totally forgot I bought $50 of Dogecoin on Robinhood, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And when I lost, and I was just going through like the different accounts, kind of looking at the random coins I had bought. I bought BAT and a few others. Anyways, when I looked at it, it was like at an all-time high, and I cashed it out for like $2,200. So nice. $50 to $2,200, and I was just like, this is so crazy that like, I mean, because it is a joke and everyone kind of knows it's a joke, but like if it rallies like that and people are making money, like, is it a joke? Like, I mean, it's just really weird, but I'm sure people are losing money too. I just got like lucky with the time. Like I had totally forgotten about it, but Elon Musk was like tweeting about it, and I was logged in and I was like, does that say Doge? And then I saw the increase and I was like, this is just
like, I'm a secret genius.
yes, that must be it.
Yeah, I mean, it is concerning because people wish that they put their life savings into Bitcoin. So people are almost going to do the same thing with Doge, especially on Clubhouse. It's really interesting because there's a lot of new people. See, the thing with Twitter is like, it's this echo chamber of people already in a space.
Yeah.
We don't really have that kind of ability necessarily to branch outside of the space. So I think it's a really tight echo chamber. But on Clubhouse, for some reason, there's all these new people that can, it's really interesting. And then they ask us about Doge, and we're just like, whoa, like, no,
we're going on like tangent after tangent, but like
I know it's okay.
I got an invite, so I'm technically on Clubhouse, but I've never actually been. Is it face-to-face talking, or is it like?
No, do you know what? I will get it up on my phone. Give me a sec. Let's see. So
like is it voice or just text?
It's just voice. So it's just audio. So let me just jump into a room.
And
so it just looks like that, basically.
Okay. And anyone can talk at any time?
No. So here you have the speakers. The people with the blue are the mods. They're moderators. Not blue, sorry, green. Okay. Can you see? They've got green ticks.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's actually really hilarious, this thing. So you scroll down and you have these are the special people.
Oh, you're
so these people are followed by the speakers, and then you have the people who are in the dungeon down here who are totally irrelevant, and these are the so-called peasants who aren't followed by anyone and nobody cares. Yeah, I'm joking.
They make a cat system on there. I had no idea. That's so funny.
Yeah, there's a hierarchy. It's really, really funny.
Wow. Well, yeah, because I know Stephen and Preston, who are the other two law partners I work a lot with at Anderson Kill, like they're both on it, and I think speaking. And I jokingly told Stephen yesterday, like, what are you all doing on there? Like, do I need to get on there? Like,
you should. You should. I promise you should.
It's just like another thing to check and do, though. It's like,
I know.
And I've been like, yeah. Well, okay, I will.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's annoying having to manage all these different, whether it's manage work, manage different social media apps, because now work is social media. So, I mean, personally, I think. I was going to say, personally, I think, go for it.
I even have clients that I talk to on like Telegram, Signal. And so instead of like work emails, I'm getting like work messages all the time from outside clients, not just like inside Slack. So yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's mad. I don't think I do email anymore, to be honest. It's all just Telegram. But anyway, we've been going for over an hour, so it's been such a cool chat. Hailey, thank you so much. It's been really good. Yeah, it's just been great. I had so many questions I wanted to ask you. I'm always kind of really interested in how what we're doing will play out in the wider world. And regulation matters in that instance. So where can people find you? Shill yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So my handle is Hailey Lennon BTC. I think it's showing under my face right now. But yeah, I mainly am on Twitter. I try not to do too many other things, but I guess I'll be on Clubhouse now too. So definitely follow, and I'd love to come back on your show like later this year or next year when we have some updates on some of these topics, like the Ripple XRP litigation and how the Biden administration has impacted us. So yeah, I really appreciate you reaching out and having me on your show. It was fun.
Yeah, it's been so amazing. So Hailey, thank you so much again. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your comments. I've been reading them all and they're all really great. So I will see you all next week on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.